Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Upper House seminar at the British School at Athens. I am Yorios Muratidis, the Assistant Director here. And it is my pleasure today to welcome Dr. Stamatoula Panagakou, who is currently an honorary visiting researcher in the Department of Social and Political Sciences at the University of Cyprus, but who has a big experience teaching in the universities of York, Durham, Newcastle, Manchester in the United Kingdom, as well as in Cyprus at the University of Cyprus, the University of Nicosia, and the Cyprus University of Technology in Cyprus. Dr. Panagakou is an award-winning political philosopher and a political scientist. In 2018, she received the Jenny Lee Prize for Outstanding Teaching from the Political Studies Association of the United Kingdom, and she has also won the Political Studies Association Specialist Group Speaker Competition in 2015. She has also been nominated for the Sir Bernard Crick Award for Outstanding Teaching. And Dr. Panagakou has received numerous scholarships in her career from the NATO Science Fellowship Program of the Greek Ministry of National Economy, as well as the State Scholarship Foundation, as well as the Lilian Voudouri Foundation in Greece. She has co-edited 2 books, The Anglo-American Idealisms, Thinkers and Ideas, along with Professor James Connolly, and as well as the British Idealism and the Concept of the Self, along with Professor Bill Mander. She has been a founding member for many years, co-chair of the British Idealism Specialist Group of the British Political Studies Association, and she has published articles and other scholarly contributions in various journals, such as the British Journal of Politics and International Relations, the European Journal of Political Theory, Political Studies Review, Collingwood and British Idealism Studies, the Journal of Moral Philosophy, among others. So please join me to welcome Dr. Stamatoula Panagakou for her wonderful presentation today here at the British School at Athens.
Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I would like to thank the British School at Athens and especially the chair, Professor Beaton, the director, Professor Sweetman, for the very kind invitation to be here tonight and share with you aspects of my research on the political philosophy of Bernard Bosanquet. The lecture is very important for me, who am a Bosanquet scholar and British Idealist scholar, and for all the community of the British Idealists, because 2023 is the centenary of the death of the philosopher Bernard Bosanquet. So it is something very special for us. Also, I would like to say that I thank very much all the people from all over the world who follow online today, because we have people from United Kingdom, Canada, USA, Australia, Portugal, Italy, Spain, Greece, and Cyprus. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. And sorry if I have left out someone, a country. You know that you are in my heart. Also, before starting my presentation, I would like to thank very much all the staff at the British School at Athens, Yorgos, Assistant Director, Tanya and Katrina for all the help during the preparation of this lecture all these months. And now I start the presentation. Aspects of the political philosophy of the British idealist philosopher Bernard Bosanquet. Bernard Bosanquet was one of the most important British idealists. Together with T.H. Green, F.H. Bradley, D.G. Ritchie, Edward Curd, Sir Henry Jones, J. M.E. MacTaggart and Josiah Royce were the key figures in a philosophical movement which included, among others, Frederick Ferrier, Benjamin Jowett, John Grote, Lord Haldane, Andrew Seth Pringle Pattison, William Wallace, John Watson, and later Robin George Collingwood, Michael Oxford, Dorothy Emmett, Leslie Armour, Timothy Sprigg, and others. British idealism was the dominant philosophy in Britain and the entire English-speaking world during the second half of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. The British or Anglo-American idealists were inspired by the German idealists and by the Greek philosophers Plato and Aristotle, and contributed to all aspects of philosophy with both their teaching and writing. And also they were very active in the community as well, because they wanted to combine theory and practice. Some general key points concerning their philosophy. Of course, there are so many philosophers that don't have unanimous views about anything, but there are some key points which we find in all these philosophers. They defended a moral view of politics, society, and the state that focused on the dialectics of the common good and self-realization. They talked about the metaphysics of society and the individual, and the metaphysics of the self. They saw education in all its aspects as a vehicle for the betterment of the individual and of the social whole, and connected education with the ideal of ethical citizenship and growth. They developed a normative theory of the state as an enabling force concerning social realization. They saw Christianity as a religion that helps the spiritual elevation of the individual and the betterment of the social whole, and theorized, especially Bosanquet, the logical relation between religious consciousness and ethical consciousness. I have written extensively on Bosanquet and religion, and this work has been published in Collingwood and British Idealism Studies and in Bradley Studies, and we can discuss later about these writings. Bosanquet was born at Rock Hall near Alnwick in Northumberland in England in 1848 and died in his home in London in 1923. He was married to the social reformer and social theorist Helen Dendy Bosanquet, who had a considerable work on her own. She wrote Rich and Poor, The Family, The Strength of the People. Helen published posthumously his book, 3 chapters on the nature of mind, and in 1924 published a memoir, Bernard Bosanquet, a short account of his life, which is a very precious book to have, because we can follow his intellectual itinerary and also the reaction of his contemporaries to him. Bosanquet was educated at Harrow and at Balliol College, Oxford. Upon graduation, he was elected to a fellowship of University College, Oxford. After his father's death in 1880, he received a small inheritance, and in 1881, he moved from Oxford to London, where he was involved in adult education, social reform, and social work through such organizations as the London Ethical Society, the Charity Organisation Society, the London School of Ethics and Social Philosophy. He returned to academia in 1903 till 1908 as a professor of moral philosophy at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. He is the author of some 20 books and more than 150 articles. He wrote on every aspect of philosophy: logic, metaphysics, aesthetics, religion, philosophy of mind, social and political philosophy, and intellectual history and classics. And he commented concerning the role, the importance of Greek political philosophy for the understanding of the political. And also he wrote numerous articles on the philosophy of the ancient Greeks, and a book, The Education of Young in Plato's Republic. And he was an admirer of Greek civilization and Athens. So Athens is the best place to have this kind of celebratory lecture, I think, for him. Some titles of his books. The emblematic for us who do political philosophy, The Philosophical Theory of the State, Logic or the Morphology of Knowledge, The Principles of Individuality and Value, The Value and Destiny of the Individual, Social and International Ideals, A History of Aesthetic. His book, A History of Aesthetic, a very thick book, is the first book in English in England which contains a history of aesthetics. 3 lectures on aesthetics, some suggestions in ethics, the meeting of extremes in contemporary philosophy. Bosanquet served as a vice president and president later of the Aristotelian Society and became a fellow of the British Academy in 1907. Also, there is a Bosanquet connection with the British School at Athens. The British archaeologist and professor of classical archaeology at the University of Liverpool, Robert Carr Bosanquet, who was first assistant director and then director at the British School at Athens, was a nephew of Bernard Bosanquet, the son of his brother Charles Bertie Pulain Bosanquet. The wife of Robert Carr Bosanquet, Ellen Sophia Hodgkin Bosanquet, loved the garden of the British School at Athens. And also, I think you have a documentary made here about the wives of the past directors of the British School at Athens, and Helen Hodgkin Bosanquet is mentioned there. She was also an author of a book, Days in Attica, of another book that I cannot remember its title now. In my presentation tonight, I have chosen to focus on some normative aspects of Bosanquet's political philosophy, and in particular, on what I call the ethical system of the state and its main components. These components are the ideal of ethical life, the metaphysics of the self, the concept of institutions as ethical ideas, the notion of ethical citizenship. The ethical system of the state is the logical and metaphysical matrix of Bosanquet's theory of the state. The term ethical system comes from Bosanquet's discussion of Hegel's political philosophy in chapter 10 of his book, The Philosophical Theory of the State, page 258. There, Bosanquet writes, the ethical system is a world in which the individual or particular will is connected with the universal spirit of the community. The ethical system is a world in which the individual or particular will is connected with the universal spirit of the community. For Bosanquet, the state as a logical idea at the normative level of the discourse, the state qua state, as he usually says, is an ethical system which aims at the realization of the best life and the attainment of the common good. These 2 elements are the elements that justify the existence of the state. Note that we refer here to the idea and the essence of the state, to the prototype that contains the Aristotelian end. Bosanquet clarifies what he means by the term state in a book which is not actually a book in political philosophy, it's a book in metaphysics. It's one of the 2 volumes of his Gifford lectures in The Principle of Individuality and Value, which was published in 1912, in page 311, note 1. He writes, I quote, I use the term state in the full sense of what it means as a living whole, not the mere legal and political fabric, but the complex of lives and activities considered as the body of which that is the framework. Society, I take it to mean the same body as the state, but minus the attribute of exercising what is in the last resort absolute physical compulsion. And now I come to the components of the ethical system of the state. Ethical life. And we have the ethical life in the German idealism as well as the Sittlichkeit. Okay. Ethical life presupposes the social whole and becomes possible because of human spirituality and rationality. It captures the purposes of human existence within the logical space of the political community, that is, the state. Here, state is not only government, okay? Sometimes there is a kind of confusion here that it's a particular government, Blair government or Mitsotakis government. No, the state is something different. Ethical life is the life we achieve as moral and social actors. It lies at the heart of the ethical system of the state. The state sustains the ethical life by providing the structures that support its realization. The structures are the institutions as ethical ideas, another term that Bosanquet uses. Ethical life refers to a state of coherence and completion that underlies the individual's social self-realization. The organizing principle of ethical life is the spirit of the whole. The state must provide the enabling framework of ethical life in order to be true to its idea. Ethical life describes the growth of the moral self and its attainment of the real self. Yet the real self, in its full completion, is beyond the sphere of the socio-political. Different trajectories of self-realization coexist within the frontiers of ethical life, which forms the dialogue between real will and general will. Ethical life relates to the metaphysics of the self, to institutions as ethical ideas, and to the notion of ethical citizenship. Now I briefly come to this term, institutions as ethical ideas. What does he mean? Family, civil society, neighborhood, the state, and the state in its international relations. Neighborhood is very important because you find these spheres in Hegel as well, but Bosanquet introduces the neighborhood. Locality, local government is very important for Bosanquet because it is the link between the family and the individual and the broader whole, which is the state, and the broader community and the international community as well. So locality is very important because there you can see easily in front of you the problems and to tackle the problems. Okay, imagine, for instance, do recycling. I mean, we do recycling in our neighborhood. If we learn to do this in our neighborhood, then we become environmental citizens wherever we are. Institutions as ethical ideas have a material aspect, but they are also spiritual structures that express ideals and moral purposes. They signify the relation between mind and the social whole. In the context of institutions as ethical ideas, individuals reach beyond themselves and form a moral fellowship that allows for their greater development and self-affirmation. They depict and reflect the development of civilization. Now I come to the other component, which is the metaphysics of the self. The metaphysics of the self captures the relation between individual minds and consciousness and the world of values, the axiological cosmos. The metaphysics of the self tells the story of the finite infinite self in the path of self-realization. Finite infinite self is a term that Bosanquet uses in order to describe the individual, each one of us. We are finite biological units. We die someday. We are not perfect, but also we are infinite because we are the center for the realization of values. And in that case, there is a kind of immortality inside the finite human being. And we are able to do the good, to appreciate beauty, to search for the truth, because we are finite, infinite beings, because always we connect with the world of values in order to be real human beings. Self-realization requires a ceaseless process of self-transcendence that makes the individual the topos of the dialectic of the finite infinite. The metaphysics of the self tells us many things, that our self goes beyond the actual self we have at any given moment. So what you see here each one of us sees his or her neighbor, and we see an individual at a specific moment in a specific time. We are something beyond and before that. Teleologically, we are more than we appear to be. The finite spirit is more than it knows. The individual is a world that realizes in a limited matter the logic and the spirit of the whole. It's time that we admire and enjoy the beauty of a painting. In that case, there is a spirit of the whole beauty that comes in front of us, that informs our understanding of beauty of the particular portrait or painting. Self-realization is not exhausted in the attainment of social ends. Truth, beauty, and goodness that communicated through philosophy, art, and religion take the individual beyond the sphere of the state. Of course, these values, these domains of the spirit appear in the state, but appear in the international community as well, appear in times that we haven't been born yet, or we are dead. So they continue to exist. These values, these are values in the eternity. The metaphysics of the self is a narrative of the genealogy and the logical potential of the individual. It tells us that we are distinct individuals, yet our being is part of a spiritual history which transcends our finite limits and connects us with a broader cosmos. And now I come to the idea of ethical citizenship, which is the last part of the talk. And because it is something that we can all relate more easily. I mean, you don't need to be a Bosanquet scholar in order to understand all the jargon and terminology. Ethical citizenship is something more tangible, more in front of us. So I have expanded more on the idea of ethical citizenship. Citizenship in the philosophy of Bosanquet should be understood as ethical citizenship. The ethical dimension is the prevailing force within the idea of citizenship. Let me explain the point. The human being, as a socio-ethical ontological unit, is capable of realizing values. Value realization is a continuous process that morally shapes the self. Membership of the social whole is an ethical membership. As such, it has two interrelated aspects. First, it is a way of self-realization. Second, it is a way of elevating the moral tone of our society. Membership of the social whole involves individual and social development. These two elements are intertwined in the idea of citizenship. The social whole is also a political whole. We have here the polis of ancient Greek political thought. Of course, times are different in modern society. Life is more complex and different, but the main idea remains the same. The polis, in brackets, is realized through the social selves, past and present. The individuals develop in the context of the polis. This is a dialectical relation, as dialectical is the relation between the finite infinite self and the axiological cosmos surrounding the self. Individuals have a genealogy and a metaphysic. The polis represents a kind of ethical life, a sittlicher kind. The notion of ethical life refers to the moral nature of human fellowship and to the self-realization processes within institutions as ethical ideas. Ethical citizenship is a kind of vehicle for promoting both the individual and the common good. It includes the universal within the particular and sustains the particular through the universal. For instance, keeping our seashores clean, we realize values, the universal, and we promote the quality of life of the individuals and of the society as a whole. And by doing this, we're doing our duty, the duty to ourselves and to others as particular individuals, as particular human beings. Ethical citizenship is both an individual and a collective enterprise. It goes beyond the frame of legal citizenship, that is, the duties, responsibilities, and rights that individuals have with reference to their status as citizens of a particular state. In a way, the notion of ethical citizenship combines the national and the supranational dimensions of citizenship as it focuses on the realization of values at the normative level and also in practice. Ethical citizenship involves a holistic understanding of one's belonging to a social whole. It refers to fulfilling the potentials of moral existence. It describes the moral growth and requires agency and an enabling framework. The moral agent is the individual. The enabling framework is provided by the institutions we have. Institutions as ethical ideas are structures that embody moral purposes and influence the minds and souls of individuals who comprise the political community. Bosanquet provides excellent examples, principles, narratives of ethical citizenship in his social and political theory. And because he was heavily involved in social work and social policy of his time, he has many tangible examples that he shares with his readers, and the readers not only of his heavy philosophical work, but also he wrote essays and addresses which are more for the lay public and for the people who are interested in society and theory and philosophy, but are not professional philosophers. How do we understand ethical citizenship? I briefly refer to 4 cases here. Ethical citizenship of Jean Leclerc, the evening classes of the Home Arts and Industries Association, social work and social workers, the case of private property. The first one, the ethical citizenship of Jean Leclerc. Referring to the businessman Jean Leclerc, who created a profit-sharing and a pension system for his employees in his glacier painting company, Bosanquet exalts the social consciousness and the moral thinking of Leclerc. He writes in Essays and Addresses, a book that was published, 2nd edition, I think, 1899, page 22. Quote, he looked at his business as a duty towards human beings, end of quote. What are the elements of the ethical citizenship here? The employer had a sense of duty for the well-being and the development of his employees. He creates a solid financial structure that helps them through their own work and through the success of the company. Leclerc created the conditions for freedom against the culture of insecurity and dependency. For Leclerc, ethical citizenship was a way of life and thinking, and not just a charity disposition or something he did in order his name to stay forever in the history of doing good works. He showed a great commitment to common good, to social and transgenerational justice, and to supporting human well-being. He contrasts, if I remember well, the case of Leclerc with some other philanthropists who did philanthropic work, but didn't create structures in order to help individuals to develop and to build upon the benefit they received. Bosanquet is very much interested in this, not only to give a benefit, but also to energize, to activate inside the individual all these capacities, capabilities, powers in order to build upon that. Leclerc worked towards real progress by doing the right thing. And this is true idealism, Bosanquet says. He helped others to help themselves in the context of an ethical human fellowship of the common good. To help yourself is a kind of general motive in Bosanquet's political philosophy and in other idealists, I think. Although there are some differentiations as you go more to the right or more to the left, because we have here as well in the movement of British Idealists. I don't agree with these ideological descriptions, but anyway, some appear in the bibliography to be more to the right, and some appear to be more to the left. Now I come to the evening classes of the Home Arts and Industries Association. We have here volunteers who offer lessons in craftsmanship to people of working class, in working classes areas, to help them develop capacities and capabilities and learn something. And the Home Arts and Industries Association and the movement of arts and crafts in Britain in the 19th century is something that people who do research in the 19th century know very well. We have here as well references to John Ruskin and to the Guild of St. George. The evening classes, and also I use here material from Bosanquet, the evening classes in wood carving, pottery, and other crafts help the youth and other working class people to acquire useful skills. Remember, we are in the 19th century, okay? Not now. Things were different. Social society was different. Understanding of social classes was different. These people acquire useful skills, cultivate their aesthetic consciousness and judgment, and develop their potential and flourish. Here we have a synthesis of practical purpose, spiritual purpose, and empowerment, if you like to use a contemporary word. So by going to an evening class and learning pottery or learning drawing or learning wood carving or something that has to do with crystals, you empower yourself, you learn something, you develop your judgment and your ability to understand, and thus you become very good in your own work, which might not be pottery or something artistic, it might be something different, but you learn, Bosanquet says, you start to understand the structures, the way things appear and develop within the space and that sort of thing. So you become better in any respect. The volunteers who offer the classes and the people who work in these areas are practitioners of ethical citizenship because they help others, enable others, okay, they help others to learn useful skills and achieve higher purposes in life, to focus on the true, the beautiful, and the good. The mind grasps realities that it could not see before, and the path to equality become more visible. Bosanquet gives lots of attention to art and to leisure time, how we spend our leisure time and what we do in our leisure time. He says here, by doing all this, by being trained in something that you didn't knew before, the distinguishing mark of social equality is, to my mind, identity of enjoyments. When people have an identity of enjoyments, his mind is always something higher. There we have the sort of social classes distinctions fall apart. Okay, we can discuss this, but I remember that Mikis Theodorakis said once that when we started to change the world, we believe in an ideal of art that the professor of the university, the conductor of a big orchestra, and the taxi driver would enjoy classical Greek drama or a ballet or a piece of classical music. And that was the ideal that activated us in order to change the world. We want to change the world towards this direction. And we thought, as Mikis Theodorakis said, that we can do this through the left movement in Greece. Social and moral progress in the political whole brings civic pride, celebrates public spirit, and shows the virtues of ethical citizenship. Social work and ethical citizenship, it's another area of, we can see the idea of ethical citizenship in Bosanquet. Ethical citizenship is at the heart of social work. The reason is evident. Social work deals with issues that affect the moral fabric and the structure of society. It enables people to realize the best in themselves and help institutions to support human beings in their daily effort to live a life fit for humans. And this is very Aristotelian. When we discuss ethical citizenship and social work in Bosanquet, we must clarify that he refers both to the social worker and to the people who are the beneficiaries of social work. The same happens with the Arts and Crafts movement and the Home Arts and Industries Association. The volunteer exercises is a practitioner of ethical citizenship. The person who goes to the evening class and learns something also exercises ethical citizenship. The people who benefit have an obligation to take this advantage which is given to them and make a step further. They must build on the benefit they receive and grow further. A duty of ethical citizenship on both sides is the formation of character. A change in the material conditions should be accompanied by a change in habits and in behaviors in order the good we achieve to last. The social worker must elicit a creative response from people's minds. Bosanquet writes this in the Social Criterion and elsewhere. True idealism and ethical citizenship are not some heroic moments which visibly stand out and recorded in history. They describe what we do every day as tireless workers from our station and its duties. And this is an idea that comes from the philosophy of another British idealist, F.H. Bradley. So the anonymous everyday effort of the anonymous person who does the good is important for Bosanquet. Just a parenthesis here, there is an essay that my supervisor, Peter Nicholson, who is a central person in all this, the revival of British idealism now, told me, look at the unvisited tombs. There is an essay in the Some Suggestions in Ethics, I think, which is called The Unvisiting Tombs. And there, Bosanquet refers to people who do the good, who change society by doing their everyday duties in the best way they can. So all these people, what we have now, and we celebrate as good and nice and beautiful, is because these people in the past worked so hard. And we are also people who will be in unvisited tombs probably, but we have offered something to our society. You can see how this works. Take this in a more active example. You can see how this works if you reflect on the case that involves in social work, okay, a drug addict, social workers who are involved in the situation, a rehabilitation center, the family, the role of the state and the officials in the case under discussion. In order to have a positive result, in order to do something, you need to have all these people working in institutions and structures and buildings and services. They have to do their work. They have to do their job properly. They have to cooperate, because if they do not cooperate, if they don't do their job properly, then you cannot save the person from addiction. And of course, much of this effort has to do with the person, man or a woman, who wants to get out of this situation and to live a happy and a good life. Ethical citizenship and private property, the final example of the idea of ethical citizenship. He reflects on the issue of private property through the prism of ethical citizenship. I take this information from an essay he wrote, The Principle of Private Property, which I think is published or reprinted in the Aspects of a Social Problem. We must clarify from the outset that Bosanquet theorizes the value of property from the standpoint of a shared common good and the social will that encompasses both society and the individual. This is important. Why is it important? It is important because by doing this, he safeguards the whole narrative and the whole discussion from the nasty aspects of unlimited wealth . This is the usual pattern. Private property is important. because it enables the individual to cultivate a sense of responsibility and care, and thus develop as a self morally, socially, aesthetically. In doing this, human beings build their individuality, get recognition, expand in networks of relations, exercise their rational capacity and judgment, and develop social and political consciousness. Property is a power. One has to support and maintain the good life as an individual, as a member of a family, as a member of the community. It helps individuals to face external conditions, providing security, a sense of purpose, and a matrix for the formation of the social mind. Ethical citizenship is a quality of the citizens as members of the social whole, a quality that fulfills their capacity for good and contributes both to the citizens' own development and to the development of the community. In this talk, I presented some aspects of the political philosophy of Bosanquet, focusing mainly on his philosophical view of the state as an ethical system and its components. I drew information from Bosanquet's emblematic work, The Philosophical Theory of the State, and other works of his, and also from my own work at research on Bosanquet, and especially from a chapter, the Baron Bosanquet on the ethical system of the state, which you can find in British Idealism and the concept of the self, that I edited with Professor William Billmander, and this is this book with a sort of I think it's William Morris. It's William Morris painting. This is the goddess of the orchards, Pomona. And I like it very much, and I think it gives a nice tone to the philosophy of the British Idealists. Thank you very much.
Very much, Stamatoula. That was a very informative lecture, and I did learn a lot. And just to give the audience time to gather their thoughts, perhaps, and as well as the online audience, may I ask a question? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. May I ask a question? And I do admit my ignorance on Bosanquet, but I am very interested in education, and I assume, I wonder actually if someone who had such strong views about the ethical citizenship, if he has given us any views about education, what is the right education, or in other words, how this ethical citizen can be trained or formed. Is there anything in
Oh, you find, I mean, first of all, he wrote a book, The Education of Yankee Plato's Republic. So he focused a lot on the topic, and also he was involved in the adult education movement of his time. And some things might appear a bit outdated now because we live in a different in different contexts, different societies, different situations. But what they did then with this sort of adult education, evening adult education, was very important, especially for the empowering of people who couldn't go to Oxford or to Cambridge or to St. Andrews. I mean, we're referring to the 19th century, but they wanted to grasp higher realities, and they want to cultivate themselves to become better in many respects. I mean, in British Idealism and in Bosanquet, you have this idea of trying to be better, trying to achieve something higher, to do good. There you find completion, there you find the fulfillment of your life. And the state and the institutions should enable you in order to achieve this goal.
Okay, yes, thank you. Does he give any examples on how to do that? I mean, did he believe that the citizens to be would have to go through a specific kind of?
To my knowledge, no. It is your belonging to the community and your personal involvement with the betterment of your society, I mean, at this level, that makes you a better person. By doing what you have to do, by doing your duty through your station and its duties. I mean, they will be also practical advice. I mean, he wrote so many books. Professor William Sweet has edited 20 volumes of Bosanquet's writings. So, and this is an interesting question. Hello. Hello, Gabriel. This is an interesting question that I need to check, because I mean, your question brings us, I think, to more tangible examples, because when we go to this metaphysics of the self and the logic and metaphysics and logical matrix of the state, we tend to forget about tangible examples. So thank you very much for this, because I need to, yes, I need to go back and to check. I know that there are many things about education in the other British idealists that I'm researching, who is Lord Haldane, who saw a university as a place that you can exercise leadership, that you, by going to university, you have a duty to lead your society in every good aspect. You have to make better your society. So the student is not just someone who reads and goes to exams, has a social purpose and a moral purpose as well. And the university teacher is a very important person that gives examples for life to his or her students. Probably different ideas from contemporary world, where the most important thing today is to get some skills and then you go to the job market. For Haldane, it wasn't like that. Of course, you learn skills. Of course, you are prepared for the job market, but there is something more.
Okay, thank you very much. No, I assume because he's, as you've shown, he's very influenced by Plato and Aristotle, and they went into a great deal in describing how exactly do you form a citizen, an ethical citizen. I thought.
Thank you so much. Because
that way.
Excellent question. I'm going to focus on the tangible and the real method, not just words and ideas. And we have Kalia here.
Yes.
Thank you, Kalia.
Very elusive lecture, also for its brevity, which is also sadly a virtue lacking in most academics. Obviously, Bosanquet was influenced by Hegel, who translated his lecture for aesthetics. Does he consciously distance himself? Is he critical at any point? Where does he depart from Hegel?
Concerning Hegel? I think there is a lot of discussion in the literature about it. Is it Hegelian? The British idealists are Hegelians, or they are not. I mean, I think I see the idea of Hegel behind Bosanquet. I couldn't say that. I mean, he, of course, if he criticizes him, probably mildly, but I think for me, he's a Hegelian in many respects and Aristotelian in many respects. So, yes, of course. Yeah. Because this formula, for instance, of the ethical life, what is the ethical life? Sittlichkeit. Okay, where we find the ethical life? In the objective spirit. The moral self, it's something that combines the subjective and the objective and the absolute spirit in the individual, whose realization is the area of the objective spirit. We have forces that come from the absolute spirit as well. I mean, philosophy, religion, art are the domains of the absolute spirit. And you get their manifestations in societies, which are the objective spirit, but our societies, our states, our international community cannot exhaust the meaning, the essence, and the spirit of these ideas that were before we come to life, and they continue when we leave this world. And I mean, I know that there is this discussion because there was a point when in the First World War, I mean, there is a lot of history here. Because of the Germans in the First World War, people, intellectuals wanted to distance themselves from German philosophy. So this tendency affected the British idealists as well. That's why we say that although they were the stars in the philosophical scene toward the last decades of the 19th century, their prominence starts to fade after the beginning, the first decades of the 20th century. And I think it wasn't just what happened. It wasn't good. Now we have a revival because people, scholars, intellectuals start to see the importance of the work of these people, and they do not misquote them or misrepresent them. And now you mentioned that the main opponent of Bosanquet was Altje Hophouse, who wrote the metaphysical theory of the state, and attacking his main critic was Hophouse, who accused Bosanquet of any possible badness in the word, the word of political philosophy, the absolute state, the state God, the state who has a kind of metaphysical existence over the human beings, suffocating human beings. I mean, these things are nonsense. I mean, Bosanquet doesn't like international cooperation. Nowhere. But he read Bosanquet with the eyes of his own prejudices. The problem, if there is a problem in the idealists, probably we have this, I don't know, we have the Greek idealists as well, which is another wonderful chapter in the story of idealism, contemporary, Tsatsos, Kanellopoulos, Ioannis Theodorakopoulos, the philosophers, professors, is that they have a very, very rich terminology and theory, metaphysical theory, before explaining things. So everything relates to everything else, and in order to understand the state or the citizen or the individual or consciousness, you go back to this heavy material in logic and metaphysics that they have written. If you don't do that, then you don't get a full picture, because you say the most usual misrepresentation is to say that the state is the government. So is this a good state? See what Iranian state does, see what the German state does. But you refer to a particular government with particular officials at that point in time. This is not the government. He clarifies this in the quotation that I mentioned beforehand. It's something more than the government.
Any other questions? Because we have a couple of
sorry, if you finish with the ones online, small question.
Okay, of course, yes. So, two questions online. One, is there a clear connection between ethical citizenship and democratic citizenship in the thinking of idealist philosophers? How would they see the purported clash between democracies and autocracies in our days, and what formula might they have for dealing with that?
Interesting question. I think that as far as democracy is concerned, they wanted to have citizens who understand their duties, rights, and responsibilities, and especially their duties in the within the community, within the social whole they belong to. So I think they wanted. I interpret now the idealists. I think what they wanted the citizen who is informed who reads, who thinks for himself and herself, the citizen who tries to understand things before acting, before voting. So you have the idea of this educated citizen, not educated because of through the university, but the citizen who has thinking and who knows his duties or her duties and responsibilities. The citizen who is someone active in the community and in the family and in every network of social connections and institutions. So, and I think that there are other contemporary idealists who work on the idea of democracy and citizenship. And I think Professor William Sweet has done some research on another South African idealist and the concept of democracy. We have the discussion of democracy in other idealists, such as Heatherton, if I remember well, Lord.
Okay, thank you very much. One other question is, Bosanquet favors structures which allow people to develop and build on the benefit they receive. Because the state represented a notion of the ethical life, Bosanquet had a limited conception of state action, using the formula that it should limit itself to the hindrances to the good life. Is this formula still relevant to the present day? What would you think of the expectations we make of the state in the contemporary world?
I mean, this sentence, it depends how you see the sentence. I mean, to hinder the hindrances to the someone who knows Bosanquet here, to hinder the hindrances to the good life. Some people might take it to mean that it is something of the state that is not involved, but only to hinder the hindrance to the best life. But I mean, to hinder the hindrance of the best life might be to do a lot as a state. I mean, for instance, take, for instance, the issue of education. If there is lack of education, if the education which is provided is not good, for instance, or it's not, you don't have many teachers. For instance, I take an example from Greece. You know, we say always we need more teachers, more professors at the secondary education because the classes are big. So you have few teachers. You need to have classes when the class finishes in order parents to be able, because sometimes parents work outside the school hours, so it's difficult for the kids to go back to, I mean, all these things that to hinder the hindrance to the best life. So something that appears very, how can I say that, very airy and okay, to hinder the hindrances, what does it mean? Doesn't mean anything at the end. It might mean a lot concerning actual involvement of the state to hinder the hindrances to the best life. Because, I mean, if the quality of teaching is not good because you have one teacher for 50 kids, you have kids from different educational background, cultural backgrounds, different languages, and you need to have more teachers who educate these kids in the Greek language. There is no high level of environmental consciousness. And although we have all the recycling points, we don't care about recycling. I mean, the state or the local government should do something about it in order to show to the citizens that this is very important to recycle, because you reduce the level of garbage, some of the material can be reused again, this, that, the other. And this is something usually I found the Athens local government, and I say, oh, take this furniture from there, this from here. You know, sometimes we have this accumulation of garbage that it's up to the citizen to give a ring to the local government and to say, look, here there are lots of from the trees, you know, when we cut the trees, some people do this without informing the relevant service in the local government to take all these branches and plants, for instance, and they create problem on the street. So you see here, here is a synergy of individual mind, individual citizen, and community. Because if there is a synergy, there is no result. Okay, I fund the local government. If there is not a service to do that, okay, I do my work as an ethical citizen, but what about the state? It doesn't do anything. So we don't elicit a positive response from the state. We remain somewhere between. In my view, I know there is lots of discussion about it. In my view, and there is lots of discussion about Bosanquet's views on social polity, the charity organization society, and the involvement of his wife in the majority report, minority report. There is a kind of war there. The webs were involved, so it's a kind of I mean, more tangible social policy issues became a kind of war among, I would say, elites of the time, with the Bosanquets and the webs. I mean, people who research these issues know better. And what is usually happening, and I think I want to get to get out of this circle, is that people who have a stereotypic idea that, oh, these people were bad because they focus on the individual, but they didn't see the problem of external conditions. And there are misquotations because they might tend to focus on the individual, but they do not say that structures and society should be different. So it's lots of research and discussion, and also to see when they say something, or when Bosanquet says something, as Professor William Sweet writes or says in our private conversations, Bosanquet uses most of the times a response to a question or response to a challenge. And when we respond to a challenge, we tend to focus on the most important point of our thinking. And if I'm spiritual and religious, I will focus on the idea of God. And someone else will think, oh, this is fanatic. This is fundamentalist. That's not true.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
A very quick question. Just a very quick question. To what extent was T.S. Eliot influenced by Bosanquet? I'm not sure of the dates or the movements. Did they ever meet?
Oh, I don't know. I know that there is a connection because with T.S. Eliot and Bradley.
You wrote his dissertation on that. What was it Bradley?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Thank you. Probably someone of the audience, the British Idealists, come on, help me. I know that there are many British Idealists there, from England, Canada, Australia.
Is Will Sweet watching online?
I don't know.
If he is, hello, Will. How are you?
Okay. Are there any other questions here? If not, we can always take it up next room over drinks and nibbles. But before that, we will thank our speaker for today.
Thanks for coming. Thanks, a real honor. I enjoyed that very much, and also it's the first time that we present Bosanquet in Greece. It's just like homecoming, because Bosanquet loved Greece, loved Greek civilization, and there is another idealist, Robert George Collingwood. Hello, James Connolly, David Boucher, and all the people with interested in Collingwood and doing research on Collingwood. There is a very interesting book, The First Maid's Log, which is chronicles. It's a description of their cruise that Robert George Collingwood did with his students in the summer of 1933 to the Mediterranean and to the Greek islands. And when they reach Italy and Greece, the Second World War was break out. Yeah. So it's very interesting to see when they came back, the students enlisted
enlisted in military service, and I think it says somewhere in this memoir, travel diary, that we make a promise to meet again when the war finished and to do the same journey. It's a fantastic book, which is a praise to Greece. The first mate's log, the travel diary of George Collingwood, and also to mention that the daughter of Robert George Collingwood is online today. So it is a great honor to have Miss Teresa Smith Collingwood in our company. It's a great honor. It's a great honor.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Stamatoula. And thank you to the online audience for its participation and for being here, as well as the physical audience who will keep the conversation going next door.